You know what didn't give my balls a good itch? Manga. I used to find manga anything but appealing, but in general, I also wasn't a fan of reading. Looking at a wall of books seemed quite redundant, and especially when you could just watch a movie about it, or in this case, an anime, I found there wasn't much to be desired. As time went on though, I indulged in it when I was forced to, when I couldn't wait to experience more of a series I loved. And so, naturally, I got curious if I could love a manga in its entirety. So now all these books have suddenly become the reason for 3 out of my 4 first videos on this channel. So we're going to go way back. About 9 months ago from this moment, I laid eyes on my first pure manga. A finished series with no anime. Oyasumi Punpun. The true beginning of my manga endeavors. Alright, so let me give you a warning. Nah, not a trigger warning. Although maybe I should probably give one. Alright, here's the trigger warnings, and just know that the story's fucked, okay? Not something someone with negative thoughts should read. But now for the real warning. This video is probably the furthest thing to what you'd expect. It's not a breakdown of the story, I don't analyze it, I've done almost no research, and I'm not trying to convince you to read the story. This video exists for me to try and figure out what this story has done to me, because after all this time, I'm still unable to wrap my head around it. So the sole purpose of this video is to attempt to figure out what this story has done to me. Oyasumi Punpun, or Goodnight Punpun, is a weird series for me. I read it a few months ago now, and I'm still unable to really process what I just read. I've talked about it with a few people here and there to try and conjure some sort of cohesive thought for this story. I can't even entirely put it into words of if what I really just read was just a story, or if it was some profound portrait of reality. Or maybe I'm just thinking too hard about this. Look me in the damn eyes and tell me if someone of my caliber,
I'm doing pretty fucking well, right?
should really be trying to piece together a cohesive understanding of Oyasumi Punpun. Or even just look at my fucking channel. I have yet to even make a well-structured video. I have such an odd tendency to just yap about nonsense. I mean, look at me right now. This is my suspect. I'm blaming fucking you for this bullshit. When I first finished this story, these were my exact thoughts right after. I have a headache, I'm quite lost, I'm confused, and I honestly don't really know how I feel. To me, these thoughts aren't thoughts, per se. To me, it feels more like fluff. Maybe some of you look at this and think, those are literally thoughts, you fucking dumbass. But for me, I'm saying they're not. Just because at this point in time, I'm still struggling to understand how this narrative sits inside me. I went into Oyasumi Punpun knowing that it's quite depressing, and I think that motive stemmed a lot from my immature, stubborn nature of wanting to see if a few black and white images could make me feel some type of way. Now, let me state that this was way before I read A Silent Voice, and maybe Oyasumi Punpun is the reason why I felt anything reading that story, but this is very much how I felt about anime in the beginning too. The question of, can a piece of fiction really make me cry? Back then, I was very different, and more so when I started watching anime, because it was during a time in my life where I inhibited sadness a lot from my emotions. Yet when I did find the anime that truly broke me, from that point on, I was a fucking bitch. I don't know what happened to me. If it's anime and remotely sad, it's not hard for me to shed a tear now. Even if it's not sad and just really motivational or awe-inspiring, I would be shedding tears of joy. It's a very strange predicament. But after reading Oyasumi Punpun in a very unique way, I think it broke that emotional barrier I had between me and these black and white stories. And that's where it shifted my perception. Inio Asano is the genius author and also the devil himself who created the story called Oyasumi Punpun. And through the entirety of life, we follow Punpun, this bird thing, Punpun is essentially how we all might have seen ourselves in the world, viewing ourselves so simply yet fascinated by the intricacies of the world around us. In my eyes, him and his family were always depicted like this to foreground the beautiful, the ugly, and the imaginative things in life. And as we see Punpun age, those imaginative things become distorted into a more cruel and twisted reality. I ain't no philosopher, but life is often cruel. More so when it's masked in some type of beauty or simplicity. The most off-putting cruelties life has to offer are the ones that aren't obvious. It's odd because even though I don't recall ever having this manga hit me to the point of tears, I do remember times where I would have to take a step back and take in the depths of certain panels. Or just hold the back of my head because I'm trying to rate the level of fuck I just subjected myself to. Like, why would you illustrate this? This is horrible. I'm trying not to get off track here, but I'm thinking about it and I mean, what compels an individual to wake up and say, this is what I want to draw? But anyways, regardless of why or who was the cause of my bafflement, I'm realizing that this manga was probably the reason why I've been more inclined to reading manga in general. From an unconventional standpoint, it's not because I'm able to binge read or because the stories are better outlined. I mean, I'm not here to tell you what's better, and I already made a video on that. The whole point of this video was to talk to myself about how this book changed me. Unknowingly, I've grown more fond of manga because of how raw everything is conveyed. Through that still raw portrayal, taking it all in is much clearer. Appreciating the little things, the small nuances, details in the art and dialogue, the way silence flows through an empty head, the smiles of a broken individual, the fondest of our childhood memories, and life as we interpret it. This story was something truly out of the ordinary for me. I don't believe this story stands as something that's changed the course of how I think about life. In fact, I probably didn't enjoy it as much as many of you did. If anything, I probably hated it at times. But I feel like this should be a universal feeling. Like, regardless of how much you loved this fucking book, there are things in this story that you should be obligated to not have liked. You know exactly what I'm talking about, and I will not stand for any other response. As for me, I also found that there were almost no characters I was fond of. Punpun's mother was a piece of shit until her last moments. Aiko was fucking crazy since the very beginning. The dad is literally Lou from Prince of Bel-Air. This guy, like, what was the point in this fucker besides wasting my time? And Punpun's uncle, who I'm not even going to say what he is. And Punpun is no exception. In the course of this entire story, there were about 2 characters that I didn't hate. So when I neared the last chapter and was met with this panel, I don't know what happened. The only explanation I could come up with at the time was, on the surface, everyone may seem like a normal person contributing to society, but in the end, we really don't know what darkness fills each person. And while this is a cohesive understanding, my dilemma was, what did this story do for me? I was lost in the thought that such a thought-provoking story didn't have me thinking outside of the book. This story has affected so many people's lives, swelled many emotions in some, while rumors say it's also taken others, yet I still don't exactly know what Oyasumi Punpun has done to me, and I think that's okay. This is an incredible story about the cruel reality of growing up, in a more extreme sense, but that extreme sense is also what makes that idea of the cruel reality of growing up more authentic. People seem to read this story and think back on their lives, thinking of regrets, forgotten memories, and memories wished to be forgotten. Oyasumi Punpun has essentially done something to a majority of its readers. But for me, my emotions didn't swell reading this story. It hasn't made me reflect on things that have happened in my life, and I haven't taken anything from this story and applied it to my morals. But it's not about what Oyasumi Punpun has done to me, it's more so, what has Oyasumi Punpun made me understand more? It's because the story didn't make me reflect on past regrets, forgotten bonds, and wish to be forgotten memories. I realized this story, Oyasumi Punpun by Inio Asano, made me understand something more. A principle that I've always passively acknowledged, followed, and lived with. Because through regrets, loss, heartbreak, and crises, I now fully understand that life will always go on. If you're still here, thank you for sticking around and watching. I'm sorry if my conclusion was anticlimactic, even though I thought it was a bit anticlimactic, to be honest, but it's the conclusion I came to, and now I can truly put this story behind me and delete all these sinful fucking panels in my file. And this format of video, I'm probably never doing it again. I'm not sure how happy I am with this video, and I also expected to finish this video way quicker since it wasn't supposed to be that ridiculously edited, but I kinda got carried away with learning how to use Blender and didn't take into account that I was probably just going to over edit at certain points anyways. I was also looking to get 2 more videos out before the end of the year, but yeah, there's no fucking shot. 2024 is my year, though. I'm locking the fuck in. Hopefully, I won't take a quarter of the year to release a single video. There will be 1 month where I drop 2 videos. If it doesn't happen, then, like, I'm selling my fucking channel. I guess it's time for me to be a YouTuber now. YouTuber, what the fuck is that, man? Like if you want, subscribe if you feel like it, and comment feedback. That's a genuine one. And if you really want to support me, you can check out my Patreon. I have a bunch of extra content there, including behind the scenes, my research notes, tutorial if anyone asks. Nobody's asked though, so there's no tutorial, and I'm just chatting out of my ass. And you can see these videos early, uncensored, and with exclusive cuts that can't be uploaded onto YouTube because I'll probably be banished off the fucking site. And thank you to Lava Mob Sandro, Leon Akafabi, and Tanner for the tier 3s on Patreon. I'll leave you to it now. I won't say anything weird to end off this video, just happy holidays or happy regular day, because I don't know when you're watching this. Okay, bye now. Cthulhu's dick!